6, 2023, 7 o'clock to order. So the procedures for disaster or tornado, we would go down directly to the basement. And if you're not aware of where those stairs are, they're over by Sarah's water billing system office. And then, of course, if it's outside, if there was a fire, we would go out these exit doors right there. Okay, thank you very much. Since meetings are being videotaped, it's important that everyone speak directly into the microphone. And I'd like to start with the roll call of Alderman Garrett.
Alderman Hazel.
Here.
Alderman Whitaker.
Here.
Alderwoman Duco.
Here.
Alderwoman Arrows. Alderman Randall.
Here.
Alderman Ferguson.
Here.
Alderman Anthony.
Here.
Alderman Ovian.
Here.
Alderman Dintelman.
Here.
Alderwoman Schaefer.
Here.
Alderwoman Steele.
Here.
Alderman Rothweiler.
Here.
Alderman Elmore.
Here.
Alderman Wygant. Alderwoman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderwoman Osthoff.
Here.
Alderman Wygant and Alderwoman Arrows are excused.
Correct. And Jenny Meyer and Eric Walls are also excused. Thank you so much. Department head, roll call, Garrett.
Yes, City Treasurer Bierman.
Present.
City Attorney Horner, present. Police Chief Matt Eiskamp. Fire Chief Lloyd Stinson. Finance Director Jamie Matrit. Director of Public Works Jason Poole. Director of Wastewater Randy Smith. Director of Library Leander Spearman. Executive Director of IT Eric Walls. Assistant Director of IT Ty Buckner. City Engineer Sal Alcott. Director of Health, Housing, and Building Scott Tyler. Director of Economic Development, Planning, and Zoning Clifford Cross. Director of Human Resources William Clay. Director of Communications and PR Kathy Kaiser.
Okay. Let's all stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight there is no public hearing, but if you are here for public participation, please raise your hand. Yes. We'll start with this young man right here. Please state your name and address.
Sure, thank you. Good evening. My name is Tony Shank, and I am the office manager for Gonzalez Companies down on 525 West Main. And I'm here tonight because Gonzalez received notice that there were some comments made about our company during the January 3rd City Council meeting. That commentary insinuated that the City of Belleville overpaid for our services for our project due to the lack of understanding of the plans and background knowledge necessary to perform the construction inspection on that project. We had watched the video of those comments and completely disagreed with those comments. Gonzalez Companies has an exceptional reputation regarding our design and inspection services, not only with the City of Belleville, but with the state and the region. We provide exceptional service to all of our clients and pride ourselves at being at the best of what we do. Our reputation as an engineering company is paramount, and we take that very seriously. We have served the city in many capacities and have done it with the highest level of integrity and professionalism. We thank the city for this opportunity to respond to those comments and look forward to working with the city in any capacity that would benefit you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I believe we have two more people here for public participation. Would you raise your hand, sir? Would you like to come up?
I'm not a big public speaker, but my name's Mark Gates. I live off of West Main in Belleville, in Oval Subdivision. I got a couple things I'd like to bring to the attention of parties involved. I was first tried to buy the property at 107 East D Street back 8 months ago from the previous owner. Once I found out it had been put on tax auction, I tried to buy it from St. Clair County, and that never happened. You guys subsequently ended up with it, and I have had to board up every window and door on the building next door to it, which I own, because constant vandals, thieves, and whoever else running in and out of that neighborhood. I am gonna bid on purchasing that property when it comes up, which I did get the packet from the city here just recently. So, that being said, I also had talked to several people about your demolition bid package, and I picked up a package for your demolition. I used to do demolition work for the city of Belleville when Paul was the inspector, and since he's retired and I've semi-retired, I don't do much anymore because I had a heart attack back in 2015 and ended up getting 6 bypasses, so I do not near as much as I used to. But anyway, I tried to buy, or was hoping to buy, a couple pieces that you have on the demolition package, which is going out for bid and to be turned in on Thursday. I was told they couldn't be sold. They were absolutely being torn down, but I do know that the city can do pretty much as they please concerning these properties. I also found out they have like 60 that they're looking at tearing down, but the two I'm interested in is the brick structure on North 12th Street and the one on North 11th Street. And I would like to put in a bid, which I'm going to do on Thursday, for the one next door to 11th Street, because you can stand between the two and touch one another. And one's a big two-story wood building, and the other's a small brick building. So I'm gonna turn in a bid for that one. Whether I get it accepted or not, I don't know. But I would like to make one statement in closing. I don't know who's in charge of your demolition, but they might as well put up a red flag on the front doors of all the properties whenever you go and have all the utilities disconnected. The city's not responsible for any damage to utilities. It's a contractor that's tearing them down. And when you guys go out and cut the utility lines and cut the power lines, you might as well put a flag on the door and let everybody know, come steal what you want. Because I've tried to board up the one on D Street several times. I went to look at the brick building on First Street that I was gonna see about putting in an offer to buy from the city on Friday, and ended up surprising a guy that was sleeping on the mattress on the floor. So, there's a lot of issues in a lot of different areas, but that's my last comment.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention, sir. Okay, who else needs to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Mary Gully. I am very, very nervous. This is the first time I ever did this, but I live at 638 Union Avenue, and I own the property there. I've got two issues I want to bring to your attention because I need help. The next door neighbor to me is at 700 Union Avenue, and that property is, renters are in there now. The property owner, I went to the courthouse.
Oh,
and-
ma'am, Mary, could you step up just closer to the microphone and speak a little louder?
Yeah, I went to,
Okay.
yes, I
Thank
went to
you.
the courthouse, and it's listed for two owners, so the courthouse don't know who owns the property. But the owner dug down, and this was in November, the end of November, 9 feet in the ground, supposedly to fix a leak to that property. And he left it. He did not come back and fill that hole in. As a result, what is happening now, that property is sinking. There is a driveway, and then there's my property. Well, the driveway is a through and through and belongs to the city of Belleville. Now there is a huge sinkhole in that driveway. So I have called the city and complained twice. That hole now is creating a sinkhole on my property. So this is not getting any better, and I don't know what else to do. I know my alderman is here. I don't know who my alderman is, but I need some help. Also, the next door to me, 626 Union Avenue, I did call the police because there's a youngster that lives there, that's a homeowner there. And they congregate and smoke weed. Well, it's legal to do that, so the police said there was nothing I could do about that because it was not on my property. Well, that has now turned into them selling drugs. So I just installed cameras on my property, but Henry Robb School is right down the street from me. You know what I'm saying? I thought there was a law that they cannot sell drugs in that close vicinity of a school. So that's why I'm here. I don't know who my alderman is, but I need some help because it's not getting any better. We're seniors. I pay my taxes. I don't know what else to do. So, yeah, I don't know how this works.
Have you spoken with our police
I did
department?
call the police, yep, and they told me that, you know, as long as they were on their property, yeah, because I called when it was just the open of smoking the weed. There was a bunch of them, and they would congregate. So I called and asked the question because marijuana is legal. And I was told that, you know what I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with that for the most part because it's legal. And they were not on my property. Well, seeing as though I couldn't complain about that, that has now turned into just an open, they were doing it just in the alley. I did stop a police officer and report it to a police officer. I did do that, and I don't know what happened with that. But it's still going on, and it's not getting any better.
And now they're selling drugs.
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yes, they are.
okay.
Yep. So what do I do next? I'm looking for guidance.
I'm thinking you should go right back there to our chief of police,
Okay.
Matt Icekant, and he's a wonderful gentleman, and he will help you out on this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming, Mary. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Melinda.
My name is Melinda Holt. I live at 421 East C Street, which is in Ward 2. My husband and I have been there since 1989. I do know the neighborhood. I'm a former representative of that neighborhood on this council. I'm a former president of the Hexham Equal Neighborhood Association, and I helped to rezone my neighborhood to single family. There is a duplex on my street that has applied to you for an Airbnb license. I'm here to tell you categorically that is a very bad fit for our neighborhood. There are at least 6 boarded up or burned out properties within 2 blocks of that. I would echo what the man would say who was looking at the property at 107 East D. We have problems in our neighborhood. The answer is not bringing in more strangers on a part-time basis. Within the last year, we have 2 water repairs on my block because of aging infrastructure. Our street is paved with brick that has pavement over it. It was built for a horse and buggy. I still have a feeding trough in my carriage house. There is no parking. Today I drove down the alley behind this duplex. It is flat, they could park there, but I see no spots that were available for that. We had a murder in our neighborhood last year. It was from, I hate to speak ill, but it was from a man who did not vet his tenants. And yet for an Airbnb, we were talking about somebody who never even sees their tenants. Everything happens online. We also had a rolling gun battle in our neighborhood about 2 years ago. Chief Clay was kind enough to host an open house so we could come and ask him about that. We do have noise from downtown festivals, which I accept. When you live downtown, you get noise. That's fine. That means things are happening. It's wonderful. But as a traveler, I'm not sure I want to hear that. The house next door to this duplex has been empty for so many years. I've been there for over 30. I don't ever remember anybody living in that house. Airbnb itself does not have a good reputation. Quoting from June of 2021 in the New York Post, it's called Airbnb's Nightmare. This week's cover story in Bloomberg Business Week details the inner workings of a company's secret global crisis team, deployed for years to cover up murders, rapes, shootings, and at least 1 crime against a child and other unspeakable acts to the tune of $50 million annually in payouts and non-disclosure agreements. It's a department known as the Black Box. Former Black Box employees who have dealt with victimized Airbnb users, the first mandate, they say, is to keep such reports from ever hitting the news, let alone the courts, lest the company's value be impacted. Quoting now from Lodgify, from October of 2022, we have had Airbnbs with a pop-up brothel with 100+ people at a New Year's Eve party that have turned into junkie dens, all-night raves. There have been guests who refused to leave. One was used as a movie set. There have been double bookings where someone forced entry. I do not mean any disrespect to the property owners who have bought the place and have fixed it up, but this is not a good fix for our neighborhood. I would ask, we do have a number of Airbnbs in Belleville, but we also have rules for landlords. 3 strikes, you're out. If the policeman called to your property 3 times, the tenant's got to go. I would encourage you to look at a similar thing for these Airbnbs. Lastly, please vote no when this comes before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda, for bringing that information to us. And I'm sure we have some people. Mr. Cross, are you familiar with any of what Melinda was speaking to?
So, do we go ahead and speak to that here or during?
This is public participation.
Oh, okay, we'll wait till it comes on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
You've got another kettle.
another person? Yes. Your name, please?
Hi, my name's Lewis.
Louis?
I live just a couple blocks north of the fairgrounds.
Okay.
In Ward 6. I don't have a speech formally prepared, but more of just research that I've done. As I'm sure some of you may have noticed, the price of eggs has more than tripled in the past few years. And I was doing some research into Belleville's laws regarding ownership of chickens, and it's banned, just blanket banned, 90.06F. Aside from a small grandfathering clause, just bans all, it covers a fairly wide range of farm animals: goats, pigs, sheep, cattle, other farm animals of any kind, chickens, ducks, geese, guinea hens, pigeons, and other similar fowl. I'm planning on following up with the Public Health and Housing Committee, as directed by Mr. Elmore here. But I'd just like to request that a small amendment be considered to allow for some ownership of chickens, given some amount of space or other reasonable restrictions, to ease anyone's concerns that they might have for their neighbors and any nuisances that might arise. I do have a few notes. So I did some research into some of the main concerns that people might bring up, such as smell and noise, which, unless you've got a rooster, which I entirely understand any restrictions against that, because those are very loud. Smell and noise are comparable or less than any other outdoor animal. I know just recently my neighbor moved, but they had a dog that was particularly noisy, and my parents have chickens in Millstadt, and they're nowhere near that. So as long as things are kept clean to a reasonable degree, just like any other outdoor animal, those aren't a serious concern. And the only other thing that I can think of that would be a real restriction would be yard space. But chickens are surprisingly, from what I can tell, easy in terms of land usage. Even the most liberal size estimate for a coop and run is about 20 square feet per chicken. So any medium-sized yard should be able to handle that if that's a concern as well.
Okay, thank you, Louis. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else for public participation? Okay, we will now go on with the character word of the month is trustworthiness, meaning truthfulness in words and actions, being honest and reliable in words and actions. We will now have a swearing in of probationary firefighter Nathaniel Circle. I hope I pronounced that last name right. Thank you. If you both would come forward.
solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and promptly
that I will faithfully and promptly
perform the duties of my position
perform the duties of my position
of firefighter
of firefighter
within and for
within and for
the city of Belleville,
the city of Belleville,
in the county of St. Clair,
in the county of St. Clair,
and state of Illinois,
and state of Illinois,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my understanding,
and to the best of my understanding,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and this state,
and this state
and the charter and ordinances
and the charter and ordinances
of the said city of Belleville,
of the said city of Belleville,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Congratulations. Let's have another one. Now I need a motion for the approval of minutes from the city council and executive session meeting minutes of January 17th, 2023.
Schaefer, so moved.
Gentlemen, second.
Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve claims and disbursements in the amount of $1,398,720.87 and payroll in the amount of $940,302.98. Okay, a second?
Whitaker.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco. Randall. Ferguson. Anthony. Ovian. Dintelman.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Steele.
Aye.
Rothweiler. Elmore. Sullivan.
Aye.
Osthoff.
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, now reports. I need a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report 2022 and Statement of Cash and Investments Report, December 2022. Second,
Schaefer.
discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now oral reports from standing committees, special committees, and any other oral reports from the elected officials or staff. Garrett, would you like to read from the Zoning Board of Appeals?
Yes, 11A1, 02, January 23rd, Lisa and Robert DeSarens, request for a special use permit to operate an Airbnb at 410-412 East C Street, parcel number 08-22.0-323-004, located in an A1 single-family residence district, applicable sections of the zoning code 162.094, 162.515, Ward 2. Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously recommended approval in the name of the applicant only with a vote of 6-0.
Okay. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny the request, based on what we're hearing from the neighborhood. The neighborhood is somewhat going through some, growth problems with multifamily already. And, we're still working out, our processes of Airbnb business.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now for discussion.
Sorry,
Any discussion?
I don't want to step on the alderman's toe, but, or from that board, sitting there looking at you guys, but, yeah, I have understand that it's an unstable area, and I understand that, we're still getting our feet wet on the Airbnb business. And I'm a proponent of Airbnb, use it personally, but if it's in a neighborhood where there are some existing problems currently, I would just say no.
Any more discussion? Yes,
I'll just
Mr.
make a
Hazel.
comment. One, I'd like to know if we do have any statistics on police runs and calls to specific Airbnbs. And secondly, this is a nice property. I am not aware of issues at Airbnbs. I don't think that traveling nurses have too many parties, and I don't think there's too much issues with Airbnbs. I would imagine there's many more issues with residents of the neighborhood than somebody who may come and stay because they have a job in the area.
Okay,
So
Cliff?
this may be the time I come up and address the question. So, you're all right. So the issue is we have Airbnbs that are regulated by the zoning ordinance and under the business licensing. I think where I'm hearing some of the disconnect is there's multiple sections of the code that regulate Airbnbs. You have the lodging tax, business tax, you have the zoning ordinance that regulates them, and then you go to the property maintenance code, section 154, that references the occupancy permits and the crime-free housing ordinance. And I think that's the concern that you have, is how do you regulate that? So we've been talking about this, and now we've developed a committee that we're going to be working with the Legal and Ordinance Committee to address these in the long run. Three major issues right here. A, it's regulated by the special use permit in the A1 district per chapter 162 of the zoning code. It is also regulated by the hotel motel tax and the business licensing, and I believe it's 118, which is your business licenses. And C, it's regulated by 154, your property maintenance code, and the inspections that Scott and his staff completes every time you have a change of occupancy. The thing is, with 154, any tenant, every time they change occupancy, when they're 18 and over, has to go through the crime-free housing ordinance, and they have to have a background check. I think the concern is, how do you check everybody that comes in there every time they come in there for an Airbnb when you don't have any regulation that says you can only stay in there that long? Long story short, to Alderman Hazel's point, I think there's three things we need to evaluate as we move forward with these. Short-term rentals, how you regulate the traveling nurses and the needs of the Air Force Base. A true Airbnb and how they're regulated through the hotel motel tax. And as a community that is looking to attract hotels, we don't want to create unfair competitors to those hotels that we're trying to bring in. And see, how do we regulate it through our occupancy provisions? And we've been accepting of Airbnb/short-term rentals because they would be regulated under the business licensing. This is a very difficult request because they could, in a sense, they have an Airbnb that's 90 days. And that becomes very difficult for me to police. That becomes very difficult for Scott to police. That becomes very difficult for Matt to police. But I will say this, we have not seemed to have had any major issues with Airbnbs because Airbnbs tend to have their own vetting process where a good landlord rents to a good Airbnb tenant and vice versa. I think the trouble could be is at what point do you not have control and you start to lose the traveling nurses that are vetted in their background and the Air Force folks that are vetted as well. It just becomes a very difficult policing matter. So regardless of what happens here, this is still a 2-unit. You can still have the same number of occupants in there if you have a long-term rental. The only difference is you've got the crime-free housing ordinance that further regulates it at that point. So it's a difficult request. I think that's what the ZBA was looking at throughout the process. And you do also have the nuisance issues where if it's more than 3 calls, then the landlord is held accountable. So it's a very tricky request. I don't think you go, it's tricky at this point in how you address it. But what I can say, regardless of what happens, this goes back to my point, we need to visit all 3 of these ordinances and do something sooner than later, because it is happening. And it's kind of like event centers. We have to address it. We can't keep putting it on the back burner. So
I wanna
I'd be happy
finish.
to answer any questions that you have.
I want to finish up.
Please.
It's my final comment. I do believe that we do need to have an ordinance and legal review meeting. Certainly something that can be addressed. At this point, we shouldn't be choosing winners and losers based off of how we're feeling in one particular night. Airbnbs are allowed. Let the ordinance committee do their job and bring that to council, and we'll adjust legislation accordingly and then address it that way. But I don't see just on a whim, one address to the next. We say yes here, we say no there, without any other underlying circumstances. It needs to go to ordinance.
As chairman of ordinance and legal, we need to send that to the clerk, and then she'll put it on the agenda.
Yes, Brian?
Mayor, several months ago, there was discussion of a committee that was formed to review this particular issue, and that has not happened yet. As I was told, that was a committee I was gonna serve on, and we have not had any meetings to discuss this issue. I share Alderman Hazel's concern tonight of how do we pick one versus the other, and we've done this. I would ask the city attorney for guidance. Do we have a way as a council to give guidance to zoning of some type of moratorium that we won't accept applications for Airbnbs pending this review of this committee and ordinance and legal review? Because I feel the same way. Until we do something as a council, I don't feel it's fair for this family to be penalized for something they've worked on and are trying to get established. And I would rather, if we're gonna do anything tonight as a council, I would rather table this motion pending those reviews or what the attorney advises we can do. But they've made it through all of our processes to this final approval, and
So it was the August Ordinance and Legal Committee meeting where we presented a draft short-term rental and some corresponding changes to the hotel motel tax ordinance. And subsequent to that, I'm not certain that a committee has assembled to meet, but tabling it would be the way to approach this particular application versus a moratorium. If you were going to meet in short order and work on the issue that you think is going to impact this and other applications, that would be the short-term rental ordinance. And so the benefit to the applicant tabling it versus outright denial tonight is your ordinance limits the ability to reapply for a period of no less than 6 months. So if you were inclined to table this application pending your assembly of this committee, review and enactment of a short-term ordinance, that time would probably be less and give them an opportunity to address whatever you enact.
And I would volunteer to take the lead on assembling that committee, because I think I'm the central point to do that. What I can tell you, what I got, and I believe Alderwoman Duco was there, Alderman Schaefer was there, and there was another one, Alderman Ferguson was there. I think what I constantly had to do with this particular applicant was reel them in and say, they kept referring to it as a short-term rental. They did not call it an Airbnb. I don't think they called it an Airbnb the entire time.
I think they were confused about what they asked for originally, because I went to visit the property. They've done a lot of work and spent a lot of money, and I know other places in my ward that are Airbnbs, and I don't think it's fair to not give them an opportunity like we have other people.
And I know they were actually very, I'm surprised they were, because I let everyone know, you're doing an Airbnb, you gotta weigh it, because you're paying a hotel motel tax every night. Does that outweigh or way less than having a short-term rental in there for 4 months and then having to go through the $70, $80, whatever the inspection process is every 4 months? So which do you choose? And I think that was kind of the position of the ZBA, that they started to realize that, and they knew that most likely they were going to put people in there for 4 or 5 months, do the occupancy permit, and then get an inspection as opposed to an Airbnb. I think actually I mentioned that the beauty is if they don't get a hotel motel tax, pay any of that over 12 months, then the special use goes away by default, because technically they are not continuing to keep that going over the 12 months. I don't think these people, these applicants, will be a problem in terms of running it as a short-term rental. I think they will do it. I think that was their intent, but our ordinance, that's what it presented to them, and that was their options at this point. And I think they were shocked. I believe it's 8% or something is a hotel motel tax. And I think when you start seeing that on a daily basis, it starts to eat into the investment.
Yes.
I guess my thing is, once again, here we are, it's come through committee, and we bring it to council. Guys, that's what our committees are for. They are to look at if it's the right thing to do or not. And not that we shouldn't have a say, but once again, I think this should have been discussed. If you had a problem with it, go to that committee, not waiting till it comes here. We continue to do that, and that is what the committees are for. Zoning, they just said 6-0, they were okay with it. Sometimes we have to trust.
Well, she's a realtor, so she knows there's a need for people from Scott Air Force Base and traveling nurses, and they can't find places to stay while they're here working.
I agree 100% about the traveling nurses. They don't cause problems, and some Airbnb property owners have gone exclusively to the traveling nurse business, and that's great.
And Scott Air Force Base.
But and Scott Air Force Base too, exactly, professional. But when you open it up to be a short-term rental, you can't run through every person's usage and so on and so forth either. Having said all that, I am perfectly fine with tabling it, and I have no problem changing that motion. When we've had them in our ward, Denny and I actually talked to the other neighbors, and we're always agreed that if somebody speaks up against it, we would have a problem with it. Nobody ever has. Check back. Any problems? No. Sometimes the owner lives in the other half. I don't know if that's the situation here. I don't believe it is.
Well, that's actually one of the zoning aspects we need to look at, because my experience tells me, so we really don't even define Airbnbs in the zoning code. They, in a sense, are under the same regulatory control of a bed and breakfast. And most bed and breakfasts are the old groundhog ones. I said this during the zoning board meeting. It's the old Groundhog Day concept, where it's a home occupational business where the owner actually lives there and rents out rooms and provides meals. These are different. The owner doesn't reside there. So these are open for profit-making entities to say, I'm buying it and I have an Airbnb. So we've accepted them as a business, in a sense, as opposed to a home occupational business. And that's a little bit of an issue, because if you have someone who wants to operate an Airbnb, in some communities, you have to reside there. I live there, but that's my home occupational business. Where this, you do not have to reside there, because we've, in a sense, accepted them as a standalone hotel room, in a sense.
Oh, Mr. Randall?
Thank you, Mayor. I just really have a question, okay, is that how many of the other Airbnbs that council has approved along with the zoning board of appeals are duplexes, multifamily?
I can't give you an exact number, but I know we have had some. I've seen it come across a couple different ways. I've seen it come, I live in my half and to help supplement my mortgage, I rent out the other half. I've seen that.
Well, I understand the rental the other half, but as an Airbnb.
It is. And I reside, I've seen it where they actually reside in half of it and they rent the other half out as an Airbnb, but that goes back to the issue that it's standalone business in a standalone unit, subject to a standalone tax, and not an actual home occupation, because the home occupation takes place within the dwelling unit in which I reside. And technically, per our code, a dwelling unit is an individual unit that has its own bathroom, kitchenette, living room, bedroom,
So
and its own individual occupancy permit.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that we have somewhere, one side is owner occupied and the other is Airbnb. But do we have those where both units are just Airbnb?
I think we just had one a few months back. Yes, it was approved. Yes, sir. They originally came in and they lived in that, but they moved on. And now they rent the second one out. Yes.
Is Alderman Elmore going to change his motion?
Are we ready? I won't stop anybody from talking.
Well, I believe the question is, did you change your motion from a motion to deny to a motion to table?
I will change my motion from
Okay.
from denying it to tabling it. That will be the change of my motion. I'm not sure who even seconded it.
I'll second.
Do the same with the second. So the motion on the floor is a motion to table, which would have taken precedence over the motion to deny anyway.
And I'll be honest, I think the applicant is gonna rent it out per the occupancy code anyway, at this point, based on what I heard.
So now we have a motion to table.
Yes, sir.
I'd ask that we take the vote.
We don't have a second.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay, so then I have a question. So if we're gonna make a motion to table, then I wanna, we need to table it for when? Table it for how long?
Yes.
Table it under what circumstances?
I thought you said 6 months, the committee would have to come back.
Well, you could table it to the next meeting. You could table it for a finite period of time. You could table it pending the enactment of a short-term rental ordinance. You know,
When
that's
is
up
our
to the
next
council.
ordinance?
You could
Could we
also kick it back to the ZBA for further consideration and running concurrent with
Shouldn't
it.
it be ordinance and legal?
Well, but we're gonna do it with ordinance and legal, but they wouldn't regulate it. I mean, you really have that ability to kick it back to the ZBA as well,
Okay, Carmen?
and they could
I'm
take
not
it.
sure I understand, what else do they need to find out? What is the zoning board gonna ask them, or what
Right.
gets changed?
A motion to table would not refer it back to the zoning board.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where does it?
So the motion to table would keep it here,
Here.
but you would have to identify a period of time or the occurrence of an event at which time it would come back.
I'll say,
Specify. Hold on.
I'm ready to, but show them.
But here's the thing, if you deny it, if you would have denied it, it's a 6-month waiting period, so now you're tabling it for 6 months. I don't think that's fair
Oh,
either.
I didn't say
It's not 6 months.
6 months. I said a meeting, I said it could be to the next meeting, 30 days, it could be an event.
Okay.
But the benefit of tabling it would be if it were less than 6 months, but I didn't hear 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the motion to table it for 60 days, which gives ordinance enough time, zoning enough time, you enough time, and 60 days from today, is what the motion would be.
And you know, just so we're clear, we did have a ordinance and legal committee meeting in August where a draft was presented, and I believe at this point it needs to be reviewed by this committee and suggestions made. And then we could revise it accordingly.
Yeah, the questions came up on the cross between the various provisions of the code, because one of the things that was talked about was the number of occupants. We wanted to keep it consistent
Yeah.
with the occupants.
So there's already a draft that's available
Right.
for review by this committee.
And the
And
ordinance,
subcommittee that Alderman Whitaker alluded to.
and the ordinance and legal is a week from tomorrow. Meeting.
But I believe the committee needs to meet on this topic before we address it at a ordinance and legal.
The directive, I think,
We've already
and it
presented it to
was-
ordinance and legal.
I think there were 3 aldermen, myself, a couple private individuals who had Airbnbs. The goal was to keep it under the 3s because we didn't want any quorums or anything like that, if I recall.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, so.
The motion to table for 60 days.
A motion to table for 60 days
And seconded.
and seconded, so I think it's time to take a vote.
Okay. Roll call, Whitaker,
Aye.
Duco,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Anthony, Ovian,
No.
Dintelman,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Rothweiler, Elmore,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Osthoff,
Aye.
Hazel.
No,
Motion carries, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next one, Garrett.
11A203, January 23rd, Stop and Save LLC, request for a use variance for a one-year extension to utilize a metal temporary structure for storage at 7311 Old St. Louis Road, parcel number 07-12.0-310-001, located in a C2 heavy commercial district. Applicable sections of the zoning code 162.027, 162.570, Ward 8. Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously recommended denial with a vote of 6-0.
Okay,
move for denial. Second, Ostoy.
thank you. Any discussion?
I will just say that as the alderman for one of them for Ward 8, this has been an issue. I wasn't able to make the actual zoning board meeting where they recommended denial, but I did send a letter. And Ogles Watch Neighborhood Association also sent a letter because this has been an ongoing issue for them. It's a shed at the back of a gas station on 74th Street, I guess, and North Belt there. And this problem has predated my service on the city council, so it's been an ongoing issue for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more discussion? Hearing none?
So on the motion to deny, I'll call the roll. Duco?
Aye.
Randall?
Aye.
Ferguson? Anthony? Ovian? Dintelman? Schaefer? Steele?
Aye.
Rothweiler? Elmore? Sullivan?
Aye.
Osthoff?
Aye.
Hazel?
Aye.
Whitaker?
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the quarter group,
11A304 January 23rd, the Quarter Group LLC, request for a sign installation permit in the area of special control at 126 East Main Street, parcel number 08-22.0-338-049, located in the C2 heavy commercial district. Applicable sections of the zoning code 155.052, 155.053, 155.090, Ward 6. Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously recommended approval with a vote of 6-0.
Steele, second.
okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, 11A4, Garrett.
11A405, January 23rd, City of Belleville Zoning Code Amendment. Request for amendments of Title 15 Land Usage of the revised ordinances of the City of Belleville, Illinois, Section 162.278, Special Uses, and Section 162.504, Site Plan Requirements. Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously recommended approval with a vote of 6-0.
Okay, I need a motion.
Schaefer.
Second,
Steele.
thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, under communications, Garrett?
12A, Home Builders Banner, February 10th, 2023 through February 27th, 2023. Request from Home Builders and Remodelers Metro East Association to install banner across North Illinois Street for the 2023 Home Show, February 10th, 2023 through February 27th, 2023.
Whitaker,
Okay,
so moved.
thank you. Ferguson, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have no petitions and no resolutions this evening. Ordinances. I need a motion to read by title only ordinances 9122, 9123, and 9124. And as a group.
It will be 9123 and 9124. 9122 was stable.
Oh, that's right, okay, thank you. I need a motion and a second,
Schaefer, so moved.
thank you.
Is this title only and as a group?
Yeah.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Gary?
Ordinance 15B, ordinance 9123-2023, zoning ordinance in Ray case 04-January 23rd, the Quarter Group LLC. 15C, ordinance 9124-2023, zoning ordinance in Ray case 05, January 23rd, City of Belleville zoning code amendment.
Schaefer, so moved.
Steele, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Ferguson. Anthony. Ovian. Dintelman. Schaefer. Steele.
Aye.
Rothweiler. Elmore. Sullivan.
Aye.
Osthoff.
Aye.
Hazel.
Aye.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. No unfinished business. And under miscellaneous and new business, I need a motion for motor fuel claims in the amount of $68,696.38.
Nico.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call?
Anthony. Ovian. Dintelman. Schaefer.
Aye.
Steele.
Aye.
Rothweiler. Elmore. Sullivan.
Aye.
Osthoff.
Aye.
Hazel.
Aye.
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco. Randall.
Aye.
Ferguson. Motion carries, Mayor.
Thank you. I need a motion now to go into executive session to discuss pending and probable imminent litigation, workers' compensation, 5 ILCS 120/2C11.
Randall, so moved.
Whitaker, second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will now go into executive session.
I will let Max do the case first.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Okay,
We good? Okay, I'd ask the council to consider a motion to authorize the city attorney to institute legal action concerning contract enforcement of engineering services agreement in IDOT project CMM-5011362 and such related actions as deemed necessary by the city attorney.
Randall, second.
okay, roll call?
Ovian. Dintelman. Schaefer. Steele.
Aye.
Rothweiler. Elmore. Sullivan.
Aye.
Osthoff.
Aye.
Hazel.
No?
Whitaker.
Aye.
Duco.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Ferguson. Anthony. Motion carries, Mayor.
Okay. I now need a motion to, I think it's adjournment time. A motion to adjourn.
Randall, so moved.
A second?
Sullivan?
Oh,
I didn't get the
I
motion.
saw that Mike Hagberg. No.
Oh,
All in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry, who was the second
Motion
on that?
carries.
Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Who-
And then the second was Mike Hagberg.
Yeah, Candy.
So I think I'm supposed to just leave this stuff for Jenny.
Wasn't he?